Good day, YouTubers, and thank you for tuning in to today's video on YouTube. Now, let's just straightforward focus on the nasturtium seedlings. And I'll tell you what, it has been a completely and utterly soggy start to the month, which really does not bode very well. And I won't really be writing home to anyone else about this, because even though we had a chronic drought during spring of 2025, I tell you what, it has been a fantastic 3-month period of warm, dry, sunny weather, and now we are back in this complete and utter abomination. But there are some good news and bad news to be very much watchful for, because apparently, although the summer that we're seeing now is feeling a little bit more like autumn, strangely enough, I'm going to straightforward have a look at what's been lying around so far. We've got some cosmos seedlings. What I'm also noticing is that, hey, if I look at one of the cosmos seedlings, that thing there has actually been growing so nicely. Even though it's been taken a while for it to grow very nicely, it has been well established. You can see there's a much more additional growth onto the cosmos. And of course, you've also got other cosmoses and some more nasturtiums. But what we're lacking is the complete amount of sunlight than what we saw back then in spring of 2025. Mind you, if I built a greenhouse, everything will not just be that white as rain as it is now, but I tell you what, it will be stunning. I tell you what, let me just straightforward have a look at what else is there. There's a wood pigeon cooing at the background. We've got more cosmos right there. That one there is also nicely established. You can see there's some extra growth on that one there too. There's that small seedling here that's also doing very good. More nasturtiums. Wow, look how ginormous this nasturtium leaf has been. Look at that. You can just see why it's been so good. And most importantly, look what's decided to come out. Those there, guess what, are actually nasturtium flower buds. Yay! Right, can you believe that? I've actually got some nasturtium flower blossoming buds coming out. So hopefully when the months start to get a little bit warmer and as summertime approaches, we will start to see some flowers popping up. Maybe a bit of, red, yellow, and orange coloured looking flowers starting to pop out. This will be amazing. And we've also got some zinnia seedlings, which unfortunately they haven't been doing very well so far. This one's got some very crummy looking leaves, but I think both of these are actually doing exceptionally well. They're actually growing really nicely, of course. And let's take a look at some of the other zinnias. I've actually got more zinnia seedlings. This cosmos seedling has failed to establish, but then we've also got more zinnia seedlings, which I might probably transplant later on. Some radishes. I don't know how they're going to straightforward cope really well, but I think, hey, you know what? They might make an excellent delicacy. They might actually be very ready to harvest, because I can tell you what, I know planting radish might seem straightforward, very simple, but I tell you what, it's actually one of the hardest things I can straightforward do, because you can actually straightforward plant radish. I might as well just straightforward harvest when the months are already very hot. But we've also got extra growths of what seems to be parsley. Lots of parsley leaves, which is just fantastic. And then we've actually got more parsley right there. Look at that. Hey, look at that. We've actually got more parsley. That could be very good for a bit of a thing for, of what you put in, let's just say, dinners and stuff. Okay, so we've also got wild cabbage, and then we can start to see some additional growths going around here, like additional flower blooms, but don't know if they're really working. I can actually see some more of it, but I think because of the cold, wet weather that we're having at the moment, I think it's going to take a few weeks for them to actually establish. And I don't know how much am I actually going to be really much, dealing with the utter unusual cool start to summer, which is not very cool in terms of how good it is. And apart from just how cold it is, I've also been filling up some bird food. You can actually see why there's been lots and lots of crumbs of seeds, corn, and anything else. I've been feeding the birds so much bird food, and I'll tell you what, because it's been quite a cold summer, as you can start to see, hey, not everything's great. we've got some petunia leftovers. Okay, no flowers this time. But let's see what else I'm going to see throughout the whole thing. We've got buttercups. And if you remember that giant mustard, that wild mustard plant, that unfortunately has been straightforward being totally and utterly down because we had so much rain. And I think I might have added way too much water. And as you can see, that plant, it's not going to stand up because I think I might have added way too much water. So in that case, I don't know what to really say, but I don't think that's something I really want to write home about it. It's just so sad seeing a very ginormous looking flower being straightforward down by an extreme weather event. Not really that much extreme somehow. Look at that. You can just see, I can just straightforward pull these apart, and there's actually some more buds, which were going to come apart. But unfortunately, because, maybe I can just straightforward revive this thing. Maybe I have a very simple solution. Why not, if I try and dunk it into, let's just say, a bucket full of water, and hopefully I can stand the plant up and hopefully let it grow some roots over a week's time. And as you can see, look at that. And wow, look at that. That is the entire root system of this thing. Yeah, it's got nothing to grow. Look at that. And I've just killed the entire plant. And as you can just see, it was... Yeah, I think the plant that you just saw, it's already seen its far better days. So who knows? Yeah, it's not looking that great. So the flowers are straightforward looking down. There's more of those buds. I don't think this plant is going to very much last. So... bit of a shame. It's a bit sad to see this giant wild mustard straightforward being dead because of me. But it's also because of the recently bad start to summer. And obviously, I think I might have put up too much water. I don't think the reservoirs are going to pick up. Of course, there are some more bad news. This firstly planted nasturtium that I just implemented, it is straightforward doing very well. And there's a slug here. You can definitely tell why there's some slugs. It's because we're just actually getting so much wet weather and stuff. And the slugs have actually came up fairly much. Yeah, you can see there's a bit of slug action right here. Pardon me. It actually tells you just how relatively wet this summer is going to be like. But I'm just thinking, wow, it's not going to be very, wet because we might get a drought this year. Well, I'm pretty certain, hey, you know what? We will get a drought this year because I'm pretty sure that there will be a lot of hot, dry weather coming up. I know there's a lot of hot weather developing up in Spain and Portugal and southern France and other parts of the Mediterranean. I think we're just straightforward beyond jealous about it. So, apart from what I'm seeing, okay, so there's actually quite a lot of weed activity. I'm just very fearful if there's any nettles that are just going to develop right inside of this meadow. But apart from what just happened with that giant wild mustard, there's also another, guess what? Pretty sure, is that a wild mustard? But I don't know what flower is it going to appear. Hopefully there'll be a giant, let's just say, I don't know what to really say, like a giant vibrancy of different flowers popping up throughout my whole lush green meadow. I feel like I might have to cut down the grass again. And then we've also got a lot of cornflower seedlings. I might as well let this thing grow because I want to straightforward let the plants establish and do their own thing. Yes, it's one of those things, sometimes, oh man, you can just see how different it is now. Somehow if you look back in, let's just say, if I flip this back to around May or April, then you start to see why, the whole garden would have been totally and utterly different in a sense, in terms of how much grass there was. But I'm sort of thinking, wow, because there's been a lot of rain, I might have to straightforward, cut down a lot of grass. But I'm very fearful about the cornflower seedlings. So I'm just very aware about how they're going to straightforward survive. Or maybe I can just cut it down all by myself. I'm pretty sure about that. Maybe I can just straightforward cut it down all by myself and see how this all works. Remembering that as we're getting up towards the warmer months, there'll be a lot of extra growth of green grass. Yeah, I tell you what, that's the whole thing, that really is the whole thing. Okay, so, but I'm just straightforward looking at something else somehow, who knows? Let me just see what else is there. Okay, the zinnias, I don't know how good or bad they are doing. Okay, sort of nice to know, but hey, let's take a look at the other zinnias. They've actually been somehow doing fairly well, but I know they've been hammered by the extreme wet weather, of course. I didn't put too much water, and look, what has decided to appear are some seedlings of the Alizum plants, which I don't think they're going to straightforward survive. I think they're going to really much fail. Maybe I have to start, maybe transplant one of these things. I don't think so. Maybe they're a bit too small for my only liking. I think I might have wasted a bit of money doing so. We've also got a compost tub for peppers, but I think the pepper seeds are going to fail. That's what I'm probably predicting, because they don't really have the right growing conditions as I initially thought they'll be. We've actually got, is that dandelion? Or is it buttercup? I'll tell you what, I'm actually seeing so many buttercups, and I don't know what the name of these pink flowers are. Maybe someone in the audience can tell me about it, because I'm not really that great in flowers. Is that the same wild mustard? I don't know. Just straightforward looking around at all different plants and things. But lo and behold, what really caught my eye is something that actually, look at that. There's more of that going around here. So there's a lot of good news here around there. But what I'm not seeing, there's actually quite a lot of other things, a few things I haven't really talked about. I haven't seen the cosmos that are planted outside, nor the fact that I actually haven't talked about some of those nasty little spiky weed things that are actually dangling right on that side there. You can actually see there's actually a bit much more nasty and gnarly weed activity there. I feel like I need to do a bit of trimming with that, of course. And there's also a bit of, well, let's just say, is that supposed to be blackberry? I'm pretty sure it's blackberry in terms of the flower blossoms and stuff. Hopefully they'll turn into some juicy fruits as we go up towards late summer. Yeah, I can actually see there's a lot of like nasty and gnarly looking thorns right over in those bloody looking bushes. It's a bit sad, I don't know. But yeah, summer is not looking very much summer now. It feels more like we're going back into winter or autumn, going by the amount of leaves that we're seeing somehow. In fact, I actually feel like it's more like autumn outside because of what I'm just seeing. But oh my goodness me, there's actually quite a lot of great news going for it here, eh? Despite how much rainfall we have seen, because we had a long, prolonged drought during spring, of course. Look at the flowers from that tree there. I've got no idea what these white flowers are. I'm actually on about the ones that are on the tree, but not the roses, which are those things right there, which are actually tucked right behind the tree there. And as a bit of a closer inspection, I don't know what specimen that is. Garlic is doing very good. Same with those onions, but I feel like the onions, they're not really doing that great. Maybe I can just, trim out some of these onions and prepare them for the next dinner and when I'm serving them. There's a lot of onion leaf growth, of course, but let me just take a look at the roses. Those little roses, I don't know how good or bad they are, but I can clearly see how they're like, hey, look at that. We've actually got a lot of like beautiful white rose thingies. Are they supposed to be climbing ones or something else? I've got no idea. And there's some weird noise which I've got no idea whatever the heck that was. Oh man, sometimes it's a little bit embarrassing to talk about what lies ahead. I don't know, there's just so many things which is just somehow, I don't know, it's a bit weird somehow. Sometimes it's a bit weird to talk about things that we don't want to talk about. But anyways, let's move on. Let's just go back to a different setup and see what else. I mean, it feels somehow a little bit weird to make a video during this time of year, because normally when it comes into towards summer, I would normally tend to associate summer as being a continuation of what this spring has been doing. But unfortunately, it has decided to persistently change in a very obstinate manner, and that's something that we can all highly agree upon. It's a bit sad that summer has to feel this way, but in that case, I might have to wait for basically, maybe for at least 1 or 2 weeks' time. Maybe during the second half it could be much drier than usual, but hey, we might still get some showers. Maybe, who knows, we might get an anti-cyclonic summer, just like the ones that we had back in 2022. 2022 was also a big drought year for the UK. Maybe. We might get a similar pattern like that. I'm sure. Anyways, I'll have to straightforward end the video here because I need to head upstairs and I need to get some warmth. So, if you really enjoyed this video, please give this video a very good like, subscribe for more for that videos in the future. And I'm really sorry about the death about this giant wild mustard flower, because I can assure you, maybe it's probably best for me to not put too much water at the moment now. It just looks totally not that great for the season that we're in at the moment, which is highly reputable for hot temperatures and dry weather. But hey, nope, it has totally gone the opposite way around. Okay, that's it for this video. Bye for now.